The last thing Evelyn Reed expected on her 63rd birthday was to be driven into the wilderness by her own son. She had imagined maybe a small cake, a simple bouquet, or a quiet dinner. But the universe, it seemed, had a much different plan for her. A plan that would tear open old wounds, shatter illusions, and ignite within her a strength she had forgotten she possessed. Evelyn had never been the kind of woman who demanded attention. She grew up in a world where mothers carried the weight of the family, where silence was a virtue, and sacrifice was the currency of love. By the time she met Paul, the man she would spend 32 years of her life with, she had already learned how to fade into the background gracefully. Paul, however, never allowed her to disappear. He loved her with an unwavering simplicity. When he passed away, the light in her home dimmed, and so did her presence in the life of her only child, Darren, her sweet boy who once held her hand crossing the street, the same boy who, as a man, would sit at the dining table scrolling on his phone while she placed his favorite meals in front of him. She had convinced herself he was stressed, busy, distracted, anything but ungrateful, because that was easier than admitting the truth. Over the years, she shrank herself willingly, from the spacious master bedroom she once shared with Paul to the storage closet Darren and his wife Tiffany insisted was cozy enough. She didn't protest when her belongings were slowly boxed up and replaced by whatever decor Tiffany saw on a home makeover show. She gave up her privacy, her comfort, even her medical savings, because that's what mothers do, she thought. They give. But giving has a limit. And Evelyn reached hers the moment her son's car came to a stop deep in the countryside, dust settling around a dilapidated shack with broken windows and a sagging roof. "Here we are, Mama," Darren said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "This is your gift, your new home." Home? Evelyn blinked at the shack. It looked like it needed prayers more than repairs. She waited for an explanation, a laugh, a surprise, but none came. Only a rehearsed speech about fresh air, quiet living, and needing space now that Tiffany's pregnant. Her birthday gift was exile. The betrayal didn't pierce her like she expected. Instead, something inside her froze, hardened, sharpened, like a lock clicking shut. She watched the car disappear, the dust settle, the silence swallow her whole. And for the first time in decades, Evelyn Reed listened to the voice she had ignored her entire life, the voice of her own will. Enough. The shack was barely standing, but Evelyn wasn't afraid. Survival had never frightened her, only being invisible had. She explored the property methodically, like someone preparing for a long winter. An old well, a leaning shed, a stove that might still work. As she hauled water and scrubbed grime from the floor, she didn't think of Darren. She didn't think of Tiffany. She thought of the papers Paul once handed her, insisting she be the full owner of their condo. She thought of the secret savings account from her distant cousin's inheritance. They didn't know. They never asked. They never cared. But Paul had, and Evelyn had saved herself without even realizing it. On the second morning, as she dragged firewood to the porch, she heard footsteps on gravel, slow, steady, approaching. Her muscles tensed. Out from the trees came a tall man with a weathered face, a beard streaked with silver and eyes the color of dusk. He carried a trowel, a coil of rope, and a small bag of seeds. He stopped at the end of her broken fence. "You must be the new lady," he said in a low, calm voice. "I'm Henry Walsh, live just through them pines yonder." Evelyn hadn't expected a neighbor. The village looked dead, abandoned decades ago. Henry adjusted his hat. "Folks don't come here much, only me. And now it seems you." His voice wasn't intrusive, just honest. Evelyn nodded. "Yes, I just arrived." He studied the house, the sagging porch, the boarded windows. "Your boy left you here, didn't he?" he asked gently. Her breath caught. "How do you know?" Henry lifted one shoulder. "Saw the car, saw him drive off alone. Didn't take much guessing." Shame pricked at her, but his tone held no judgment. Henry reached into his bag and handed her a small loaf of bread. "Welcome to the neighborhood," he said softly. "Looks like you've had a rough start. If you need help, you holler." And with that, he walked back into the trees. Evelyn stared at the bread in her hands, still warm, real, solid. The first genuine kindness she had received in years. She placed it on the table inside the shack and began to cry. Not because she was abandoned, but because someone had finally seen her. Every evening, she climbed the hill for phone signal. The world outside still moved, still breathed. And finally, it noticed she was missing. The first call came from Darren. "Mom, hey, just wanted to check if you settled in." Evelyn's voice was calm. "All financial access you had has been revoked." Silence. "What?" Darren sounded like someone had slapped him. You blocked my access? Why would you do that?" "Because it was mine," she said simply. "And you never asked permission." "Mama, don't play games. Tiffany and I depend on that account." "You shouldn't," she replied. "You're a grown man." His voice hardened. "You can't do this." "I already have." He hung up. Hours later, Evelyn called, her voice high and sharp. "Evelyn, what did you do? Darren is furious. We have bills, plans, a baby on the way. You have 2 healthy hands and 2 working feet. You'll manage. You're being selfish." For the first time in her life, Evelyn laughed. It felt strange and beautiful. "No, Tiffany," she breathed. "For the first time, I'm not." She contacted her lawyer again. She confirmed her ownership of the condo. She blocked Darren from every legal angle possible. She filed an official notice prohibiting him from selling, renovating, or renting anything on the property without her. And then, she made her own plans. Henry, seeing her hauling heavy wood and struggling with repairs, began stopping by daily. Sometimes with tools, sometimes with vegetables, sometimes with stories of the land. Evelyn learned he was a widower, a former carpenter, a man who chose solitude after losing his wife. He never pried, never pushed, but he was there. Together, they patched the roof, fixed the porch, repaired the stove. In return, Evelyn cooked simple meals that reminded Henry of a life he thought was gone forever. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. 2 lonely lives were becoming one quiet rhythm. 3 weeks after abandoning her, Darren found her. He stormed up the path, kicking weeds aside, fury etched into every line of his face. "Mama, you need to come home. This is ridiculous." Evelyn looked at him from her newly repaired porch. She wore clean clothes, her posture was straight, her eyes clear. "This is my home," she said. He blinked. "Stop it. Just stop. Tiffany is stressed. We can't afford anything without your help." "You shouldn't have to. That's why I raised you, to stand on your own." He stepped closer. "You own me." Henry appeared at the edge of the yard, leaning casually against a tree, arms crossed. "Son," Henry said calmly, "you might want to lower your voice in front of a lady." Darren bristled. "Who the hell are you?" "A neighbor. And a witness." He swallowed. Evelyn stepped forward. "I don't owe you anything," she said softly. "I gave you everything. and you threw me away like a burden. That's not... It is, she cut him off. And now you will walk away and you will not come back. His chest heaved. You have no right, he hissed. I own the condo. Legally. Fully. Permanently. It hit him like a physical blow. You tricked me. No, I trusted you. And you proved unworthy of that trust. He looked between her and Henry, his eyes burning with helpless anger. This isn't over. It is, Evelyn said quietly. For me. He left. This time, she didn't watch the car disappear. She turned away before the dust even rose. Over the next months, Evelyn transformed. She planted a garden. She scrubbed the house until it breathed again. She filled the rooms with warmth, color, and memories she chose, not ones she clung to out of habit. She wrote letters to old friends, joined a local library's traveling book program, helped Henry repair a fence on his property, and slowly, she healed. One evening, as summer painted the sky amber, Evelyn and Henry sat on the porch eating stew. Fireflies fluttered around them like living stars. Henry looked at her thoughtfully. You know, he murmured, when you first came, I thought you'd last a day, maybe two. Evelyn smiled. So did I. He chuckled. You proved me wrong. She turned her face toward the fading sun. No, she said softly. I proved myself wrong.
Months later, Evelyn received a letter from the bank, a simple note confirming that the final paperwork had been processed. Every account, every asset, every penny officially sealed under her sole authority. Darren had tried to contest it. He had tried to claim dependency. He had tried to guilt the bank, the lawyer, the world. But he had forgotten one thing. Evelyn Reed was her husband's wife, a woman loved, trusted, and protected by a man who knew her worth even when she didn't. And more importantly, she was no longer invisible, no longer wake, no longer silent. The shack that once symbolized abandonment had become her sanctuary, her victory, her rebirth. One autumn afternoon, while Henry chopped wood and Evelyn kneaded dough inside, her phone buzzed, a text message from Darren, just 6 words. We need you. You. Please come back. Evelyn read the message, thought about it for a moment, then quietly deleted it. She walked outside, wiped her hands on her apron, and called out to Henry. Tea or coffee? Henry smiled. Surprise me. She poured 2 cups, stepped onto the porch, and sat beside him as the golden leaves rustled softly around them. Her life finally was her own.